don't shine flashlights through windows with people holding shotguns because they will shoot you. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Sky Webb and I'm here to talk about a true crime story that I can't get off my mind. Before I get started, I just want to put out a little disclaimer that I mean no harm to any of the victims or the victim's family, and I wish everyone who was harmed within this story the utmost peace and solace, either in rest or in recovery. So this Thursday's true crime video is going to be all about the disappearance of Jayme Closs. Jayme Lynn Closs was a 13-year-old girl who lived in Wisconsin with her parents. So Jayme was a dancer, a student. She had a really good relationship with both of her parents, but her and her mum were especially close. They had a really good bond and relationship. On the 15th of October 2015, a man parked at the end of the Closses' driveway. And he approached the front door in a black hoodie, a black ski mask, and holding a loaded shotgun. He immediately yelled out to the family and knocked on the door, and he actually posed as law enforcement. He told them to open the door and let him in. So James Closs, which was Jayme's father, he was 56 at the time. He was a really respectful man and he had a lot of respect for the police. He in no way wanted to get in the way of police or obstruct them or make things difficult. But at this point in time, he did feel as though this man was a little bit sketchy and he thought that he posed a threat to his family. So instead of letting him in, he shone a flashlight through the window and looked at this man and demanded to see his badge. Of course, instead of handing over a badge, the guy in the ski mask actually just shot him. He fired one fatal shot which killed James Closs, and then he continued to break into the home. Once he was inside the home, he checked every single room, deciding then and there that he would leave no witnesses left behind. He came across one door which was locked, which was actually the bathroom door. And so he began shooting it down so that he could break in. Inside the bathroom was Jayme and her mother Denise, who was 46 at the time. So at this point, the man had already killed Jayme's dad. He had broken in, he'd been going through all the rooms, he'd been yelling, and then he shot down the bathroom door. So at this point, Jayme is crying pretty hysterically, and Denise was just trying to console her, comfort her, hug her, tell her it's gonna be okay. At 12:53 in the morning, Denise actually made a 911 call, but unfortunately, instead of being able to relay what was happening, she couldn't speak at the time, and all the operators heard on the other end was yelling, shouting, and gunshots. So once the man had broken into the bathroom, he started ordering the females around. He got Jayme on her own and duct taped her hands and her feet together. It was then that he shot Denise and killed her right in front of poor little Jayme, who was also only 13 at the time. And as soon as he had shot Denise, he was out of there. He quickly grabbed Jayme, dragged her through a pool of her mother's blood, which he almost slipped in, which could have actually benefited everybody in the situation. Well, not benefited him, but benefited the good guys if he had have tripped and fell and it took him a couple extra seconds. But alas, he did not. So he grabbed Jayme, chucked her into the back of his boot, and he left. The problem was that they had already made the 911 call and emergency services were on their way, and he knew this. So he would have had to drive past them in order to get away from the house, which obviously wouldn't be a great idea depending on what they thought they were coming to. So instead of continuing to drive, the ski mask man decided to park on the side of the road, and within only 4 minutes of making the 911 call, police showed up at the Closses family home. 4 minutes, that's how long it took them to get from the minute she pressed dial. So if the ski mask guy had have slipped and fell, it might have cost him an extra 20, 30, 40 seconds to get up and get out of there and get Jayme out of there, and the police would have caught him. They were this close to just catching him before he could get away with Jayme. But unfortunately, they didn't. So he sat there in the car and watched police drive past, ambulance drive past, and once all the sirens had gone, he left. So Ski Mask Guy took Jayme to rural Gordon, which was about 100 kilometers away from the Closs family home. He took her to his own house where he held her captive for a total of 88 days, which is a fucking long time to be kidnapped, in my opinion. So he said that he would watch TV with her, he would order her to play board games with him, they would cook together, they would eat together, they would talk about his day, I guess. They did a lot of things that were seemingly normal things to do. You come home and you talk to your loved ones. Only this wasn't a loved one. This was someone who didn't want to be there. That was someone who was absolutely terrified of this man who killed her parents right in front of her. So this guy obviously had something fucking wrong with him to think that this was some kind of relationship and this is how it worked. So he would actually have friends and family come over quite a lot, and they came over during a Christmas period as well. So he would actually have like Christmas parties and events and whatever. Basically, he had people come to his house where Jayme was being held captive. So when these people did come over, he would hide her under his bed. So what he would do is he would get blankets, clothes, baskets, shoes, whatever he could, and basically barricade her within the bed, under the bed. So he'd put it all around the sides so that she couldn't get out. And he would tell her that if anything were to be moved, he knows exactly where everything is, and if it was to be moved, he would know, and he would hurt her or he would kill her and such and such. And he began to do this fairly regularly. He did this anytime he would leave the house, whether he was going to work, to the shop, friends and family, he would barricade her under the bed. And there was only one time that he punished her by beating her because he thought something had been moved. So we don't know whether or not Jayme had actually done this intentionally by trying to escape or get out or move around, or whether he was just completely mistaken. We don't know, but she did cop a beating for it. And then over the Christmas periods, he would actually say, if you move, if you try and leave, I will kill you. So it was no longer a threat of being beaten, it was a threat of being murdered. And in Jayme's mind, of course, he would murder her because she'd already seen him do it to both of her parents. So in the meantime, the police came to the conclusion that Jayme was not a suspect and rather she was someone who was possibly in danger. They were immediately worried about her well-being, so they put out an Amber Alert. And on the 23rd of October, a huge group of volunteers decided to search the entire surrounding areas of the Closses' family home, looking in woodlands, down roads, in backyards, the lot. But unfortunately, they were unsuccessful and did not find any evidence, any clues whatsoever. By the 26th of October, so not long after the murders actually were committed, there was a $50,000 reward up for grabs for anyone who could offer information into where Jayme was. So of course, a $50,000 reward brought in quite a lot of tips. So the police actually had over 2,000 tips made that they had to investigate, and they just about investigated all of them. There was only a few that obviously were fake or hoaxes or just led nowhere, so they didn't investigate those, but they investigated a huge number of the tips that they were given. Everyone was so desperate to know where Jayme was. People were searching for her, people were donating to the cause, investigators were working pretty tirelessly, and yet despite all of their efforts, the whole 88 days that Jayme was held captive, they didn't have a single suspect. They didn't have a single lead. Everything led to nothing. It was all going nowhere. It wasn't until January 10th of this year, 2019, that the police finally stumbled across something useful. Jayme herself. On the afternoon of the 10th, the ski mask guy said that he was going to work, so he hid Jayme underneath his bed as usual and barricaded it and gave her whatever threats that he usually did, and he went off to work. So for whatever reason, Jayme decided that this time she wasn't going to sit idly by, she wasn't going to stay under the bed, and she actually kicked her way out, grabbed a pair of his shoes and made a run for it. So she trekked through the snow for a little bit wearing his white joggers, and finally she came across a woman who was walking her dog. This woman took her back to her house where she called the police, and the police came and got Jayme pretty much immediately. They got her out of the town basically for her own safety, and she was able to then give a detailed description of the man, what he looked like, what car he drove, what his house looked like, and then she was taken to the hospital where she was actually guarded for the entire time before being released to her auntie the next day. So she said that the kidnappers / killer's name was Jake Patterson, and he had no criminal record, so police didn't necessarily believe her immediately for the fact that he had no criminal record, but he was actually apprehended fairly quickly because of the description she gave of his car. So they saw his car driving past near his home, they pulled him over immediately, and before the police had a chance to do anything, Jake Patterson actually got out of his car, put his hands up and said, "I did it." So Jake Patterson is the one who killed both the Closs parents and kidnapped Jayme for this entire time. And Jake Patterson was only 22 years old. So he has siblings that have completely disowned him, want nothing to do with him because of what he's done. And he's also had his dad publicly announce that not only his, but his entire family's hearts are broken, not only for their selves in this time, finding out what his son has done, but also for the Closs family. So it doesn't seem as though he has much family support, but obviously I don't know whether things have changed on that front. So as for why Jake did it, police looked into it and they couldn't find any connection between Jake and the Closs family whatsoever. And when questioned, Jake basically said the same thing. He said that they have no connection. He's not seen them on social media. He's not friends with them in real life. He has literally zero connection to them. He said the reason he picked Jayme was because he was driving by one time, saw her get off a school bus, and he decided then and there that that is the girl he wants to keep, he wants to steal. So that's what he did. He just handpicked her. He actually tried to kidnap her multiple times. So the first time was only a month before the actual kidnapping occurred, and the second time was actually only a few days before the killings and kidnapping occurred. So he was pretty stuck on Jayme, and this also goes to show that he had put thought into it before he committed the kidnapping, which goes against his own word later on. Because of this and an array of other reasons, police claimed that he had put a lot of thought into this. He had put various actions into place, he had done a lot of thinking and planning, and they basically said it was all very premeditated and well thought out. But in a letter that Jake wrote to a reporter, he claimed something a little different. He never denied what he had done, but he apologized profusely. Pretty profuse? What? Profusely? Profusely? Okay, you know what I mean. So he apologized I need to say that. It's like an itch you can't scratch. Like I have to say that in a sentence now, like otherwise profusely? He apologized profusely. It just doesn't sound right. I fucked it now. Anyway, he apologized in this letter, but he claimed that they were done on impulse. So he basically acted as though he rocked up and then they provoked him and that's why he shot them, and then he impulsively took her because she was so beautiful, and then he impulsively kept her, and basically it was a bunch of poppycock because it's obvious how much time, thought, effort had gone into this. It wasn't just impulse, it was very premeditated. But he confessed to police that he had killed both of the Closs parents as well as kidnapping Jayme, and he was charged with 2 counts of first-degree homicide, 1 count of kidnapping, and 1 count of armed burglary. Did I say that one right? On the 14th of January 2019. And then his bail was set to $5 million in cash, which no one paid for. But despite these charges, he only pleaded guilty to the first 2, and he actually moved to dismiss the 3rd charge, which the judge agreed to. So on the 24th of May 2019, Jake Patterson was sentenced to the maximum of 2 consecutive life sentences in prison without chance of parole. And that was for the murders plus an additional 40 years for the kidnapping. He was sent to a maximum security prison in Wisconsin, but due to all the media coverage, he actually had to be transferred for his own safety. So basically the inmates weren't the biggest fans of what he had done, and they got a little bit violent with him and made quite a lot of threats. So they actually had to move him to an out-of-state prison in New Mexico to keep him safe. After all of this had been dealt with, the parent company of the business that the Closs parents actually were employed by offered Jayme a $25,000 reward for saving herself. So instead of the $50,000 for information, they were like, you know what? Go you fucking 13-year-old badass bitch, you just escaped from a little crazy's fucking house, and like fucking good on you. You deserve this fucking money. Like, congratulations, you fucking saved your own life. Like, have our money. We have plenty of it. So now Jayme is spending time with her friends and family, trying to recover from all of the fucking horrific shit that she has been through this year. She's working with professionals to get back to normal, or get back to the closest possible normal that she can get to. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about this case, or you can head over to my Facebook at skyweb with 3 B's and let me know there. I find this case pretty interesting merely for the fact that he was so violent at the home, where he just straight out shot both the parents in front of Jayme, walked her through the blood, like just a horrific crime. But then he seemed to be so non-violent with her during the entire like kidnapping process. He didn't really hurt her. He hurt her one time, which is still obviously horrible, but when you hear about abduction cases, usually they use quite a lot of force and violence in order to keep their captives to like doing the right thing, whereas with her he mostly used threats and didn't actually hurt her. So she got really lucky in that regard, but I just think that makes this case interesting. I find him quite odd, especially for the fact that he was only 22 years old. He had a really supportive family. It just kind of doesn't make sense that he would go and do this. So make sure you give this video a like if you feel like it. I would really appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe so you can see all of my new videos. I post every single Thursday, and I usually go live on Facebook on Wednesdays if you're interested in that. So make sure you guys are being careful out there. Don't get off any school buses in case there's crazy people watching you, and don't shine flashlights through windows with people holding shotguns, because they will shoot you. So yeah, be safe. Thank you for watching. Bye!